Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving On podcast. I'm Jay Norman. This is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jess Norman. Babe, you sure you remember how to do this?
Oh, I bet we'll figure it out.
You want to start off by telling them our brand new name?
I'd love to. We want to welcome y'all to the brand new Moving On Again podcast.
And on with the show.
Hi, babe.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
I'm all right. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Good. I'm just really happy that we're sitting here because about 5 minutes ago, my laptop broke. I guess you must be about to say something life-changing.
Evidently.
And the dark is trying to get it stopped.
And we're hoping it records.
What was it?
I'll come up with it in a minute.
Okay. Is it in your notes?
Not quite there tonight.
Okay. No, we're going to rely on just our mixing board to a SD card instead of to my laptop. But I like my laptop because I like to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Makes me feel a lot better.
You stole some parts from all the kids to get us going tonight?
Yes, I stole Hartley's Nintendo Switch SD card.
Maybe she won't.
You think she'll care?
Nah.
I'll replenish.
Yeah, she can do it. So, babe, you're a deep thinker.
Yeah.
On the regular.
Are you?
Not as deep as you. I follow in your footsteps on the deep thinking.
Are you? And you just don't let on.
No, I don't think I'm a deep thinker like you are, because you have to kind of get me started down the deep thinking path.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell them about the other night when we were going to bed and I told you I thought I was dead?
You tell them.
No. Because I die in my sleep every night.
Yeah.
And I had told 3 people, my therapist, Jay, and my nephew. And each of the 3, when I said, every night I have a dream that I've died. And each of the 3 people said, huh. They all 3 said that. And then kind of changed the subject. And I just thought, if I was dead, I think that's what the person would say.
We didn't help much, did we?
So then when we kind of got in deeper and I kind of asked him to go a few layers, he goes, are you wanting to talk about if you're dead or not? And it was just the funniest thing in his country accent.
Well, sometimes you get me headed down the right path to have a deep conversation.
Yeah.
And so you started on one, I guess really then and up to this point tonight we're discussing.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Discussing it.
Pissing and cussing and disgusting.
There you go. So we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And you were getting deep about talking about how to fall in love with your life.
Yeah.
And I guess in my mind, when you first started, I'm just thinking about like what's fun, what I want to do.
Yeah.
But you took that a whole lot further. So.
Oh, you thought I was saying let's talk about our hobbies.
Not necessarily hobbies, just things we loved when you started talking about it.
I could see that. Do you wish I was more the person that's what I meant?
No.
Okay, good. Because I don't
have anything there.
Well, I wish I could get back to that.
Yeah.
I wish I could. We were just talking earlier about how I kind of live, you would say, some of you would say disassociated, or some of you would say, I would just kind of describe it, maybe I live in a full blast existential crisis. Not crisis, but acknowledgement. I'm aware of our existence at all times.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wish I could just lay that down for a second. And so I'm finding when I can plug into my relationships and I can plug into the things that help me to enjoy my time here, that's really, really healthy for me, especially being around people. Being around people is so healthy for a mind like mine.
And simply put, to me, is you don't do small talk with people for the most part, and you don't do small talk with yourself. That's kind of the way I see it.
That's really funny. That what that's why they made my laptop break?
I guess so. I didn't want you to dig too deep tonight.
That is a journal entry. Do you know what I was thinking? It's so funny that you say that. It's because today I was thinking, you know how they say, don't meet your heroes?
Yeah.
Because you're never...
That's a huge deal for you.
It's a huge deal for me. One of my heroes has just signed on to hunt at our character lease. And I just don't really ever want to even go to Artur lease anymore because I'm just like, I just can't meet him. But anyways, they say don't meet your heroes because it'll just be you'll be underwhelmed. And so I'm constantly trying to become my own hero. And so do you think that's a problem, is becoming your own hero and then really getting to know yourself and then meeting your hero within you? Do you ever think about that?
That's a circle to follow there, but I've never thought about it. But I will say, and I don't know where I read it, but I have seen that about some. I don't remember, some professional athlete or some business guy talking about. I know who it was. It was Matthew McConaughey.
Okay,
has been
in Greenlight.
Yeah, and well, he's been talking about that lately, about how his hero is himself, and he's looking down the road 10 years at what that hero looks like. And I never really had thought about it that way.
That's really interesting.
So
he has a book called Greenlight. I have it on my Audible. It's really, really entertaining.
It may be in there. I'm not sure. I just saw a piece of that. That may have been an excerpt from it I was reading, for all I know. But I did see something along at 9. So then, when you get to talking about your life and how to fall in love with your life, what's your thought on that? How do you do that, and where are you at in that?
I think paying attention to those sweet moments that set your heart ablaze, the ones that are unexpected.
Yeah.
So the moments that you're having with your kids or your spouse, nature's a real big one for me.
Yeah.
I always say God is water because I just need to be by any type of water. But I know if I get a little panicky or a little fearful over what's next or where are we all headed, and I'm not even really talking about heaven and hell, because for a mind like mine, heaven can even be pretty frightful. What if you're not there? What if my children aren't there? I'm not in charge of anyone else's eternities. And so it's just the whole eternal existence is pretty heavy for me. And so when I say being around people helps me with that, is because I just think if we're heading for something that's a little uncertain or doesn't really have a value on it, at least we're all doing it together. And there is something really comforting in that, is good or bad, we won't be alone. And I think there's good, and then there's bad, and then less than bad is alone and isolated. And I realize if that's not the case, I think we can take on anything,
Yeah.
and that none of us are struggling with any existential anything alone. Yeah. We're all here facing the same future, and that's pretty comforting to me.
So you said that this really started when you were really young.
Yeah.
Thinking about this deep.
Yep.
And, we talked about how our faith and what we grew up in, the religion we grew up in, how it kind of sometimes sent us down. We've talked about that on the podcast before, but talk about when you were little, kind of how that started.
Do you know, I remember being 8 or 9 and laying on my bed and crying, and there being this void around me that was closing in on me so heavily. If I would try to think of eternity, my little head could not. And why was my little head even trying to?
Yeah.
And so whether you would call that religious trauma, because I was told so many things at way too young of an age. And I think a lot of children are hearing things that their little minds can't wrap around. And so maybe I was in the wrong rooms at the wrong times. But either way, I do. So maybe if it stems from that, if I was born from it, if my mom, grandmother, great-grandmother dealt with it, they say your body keeps score. So there's things in your minds and in your hearts and in your bodies that come from 300 years ago. Why do you think you feel so much older and wiser than you are? Is because there's 300 years of knowledge inside your body. And so when I was 8 or 9, I really just would lay there and cry about eternity. Not that I wasn't happy about it. It wasn't that I was scared that eternity was going to be bad. I knew eternity was going to be amazing. My mind just couldn't wrap around the value. No one's can. And my mind was like, well, what if I get tired? Or what if I want it to end and it doesn't? It's the fact that it's an unending thing that my mind can't make do with because we don't know anything else like that.
Yeah. Do you think that something to do with what you learned in religion sparked that thought process, or do you think that's just you being, that was just the start of the deep thinking?
I know there's a phobia of eternity. I forget what it's called right now. And so maybe I was born with that. Maybe just the conversations that we were having at church, made those feelings and thoughts and emotions come to the surface for me to have to deal with them. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it took me about 10, 11, 12. I mean, I had such good people in my life. I don't know why I didn't bring this to them. Maybe I thought everybody dealt with it or everybody felt the same way. But I finally took it to the kid's dad. I was like 22, 23, and we were sitting on this bench by my sister's pool, and I finally just decided to let him in on it. I'd never told anyone. And I was like, this is something I think of every day, as something that I really struggle with. If I think on it long enough and hard on it, it can take me to my knees. It can take me out. And which reminds me of a phobia. So it very well may be a phobia. And I remember he never even really had to think on it, ask me any questions. He didn't skip a beat. He just said, what would you rather? And that sentence helped me so much in that little span of what would you rather? What would you rather than be here with this family and these children and this life that you have? What would you rather? Where would you rather be? And so that's when I really just started trying to decide to plug back in and fall in love with this ride that I'm on.
I think for me, it's just like, it's kind of a weird analogy, but when you think of a name, a town like Texarkana, when I was a kid, I never did like separate that out like Texas and Arkansas really till I got older.
Yeah.
And I think for me as a kid, eternity, like I didn't think of it in that context, like the deepest part of it.
Sure.
I don't know if that's being a male or if that's just me.
I'm just really envious of that.
Yeah.
I really think my life and my anxiety and the grooves in my brain would be so different if I could say the sentence you just said.
Well, but I think part of the knowledge and the thought process that you gain from that has made you the person you are to be able to think the deep thoughts and, come up with the things that are meaningful.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, babe. I'm glad that you don't mind it.
No, I know it's a lot of work to worry about that. As a kid, I mean,
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I meant by you don't, even then you didn't have small talk, even with yourself. Your internal dialogue has always been deep, where mine is not.
I was thinking about that is in my encounters with people, whether it's texting or we're seeing each other in the store or we're meeting for dinner, if any of that goes towards small talk or towards something that doesn't have value or something that kind of harms the deep value of love that we have in this life, on the same page, if I'm around anyone that finds themselves better than anyone else or finds someone else better, if they're talking of somebody that they think is so much better because they have fame or they have money, or when I hear of people ranking people or the bragging, or that just goes so far away from that authenticity or that deep real talk that I crave. It makes me really uncomfortable. And I think that's why it really harms me to be on social media so much, is because it's not the good and the bad. It's just the good. And I know that's so cliche. I'm not trying to be cliche. I just mean social media is almost the epitome of small talk. And so I have to have accounts on there that are genuine and good and real and authentic. And I thought that's really the basis of us. Is I thought, if that's what I need, that's what I need to be. That's what I need to be. That's the stuff that I need to put on there, so that if someone's struggling, they can see my eyes and see, that I'm there. And even that just little tiny push is when I want to be able to add back into this space.
Right. Well, not to keep going back on it, but do you think that as a kid and doing that, I mean, that deep dig and that I can't get the word out. Authenticity of looking at people and them being authentic. Do you think that started then, or do you think that's progressed as you've gotten older and you focused on that more because you realized people weren't authentic? Or
no, I think I was born with it, and my kids are. They kind of have a little bullshit meter. They'll call people out and say like, why were they talking to me like that? Or a lady one of the secretaries was trying to get cash checked out for me so that we could get to the girls' games a little bit earlier, but I got there a little late. When you get there right by carpool, it's hard to get them because they're all going to carpool. And so I kind of messed up on the timing, but she was real frustrated with me, but she decided to go get him either way. But she was absolutely hateful to him with a smile. And I was like, oh, my friend, you didn't pull it. You didn't pull off what you thought you pulled off. Like, he got in the car and he was like, Mom, she was so mean to me. And I was like, what'd she say? And he said, she had this big smile on her face and she was going, this way, honey. And I was like, oh gosh. And so the kids have seen that in people since they were tiny. Cash, definitely, since he was tiny. And I think there's a tone or a tilt of the head or just anything that we kind of are like, oh. And there's sometimes that you and I'll have a problem because you're a good old boy farmer. And so you'll start doing your small talk and I just want to peel the skin from my body. But what's really funny is now you'll do it and you'll look at me and be like, sorry. And it's not that you're being unkind. You're just doing the, what I call TGIF, eh? Like, I just can't, working hard or hardly working. Like, I can't do it. Cannot do it.
No, you're not much on the small talk things.
No, it makes me really uncomfortable and icky. Yeah. So, you as a child and growing up, that never really was, you never really kind of questioned what's next?
I don't know that I didn't question what was next. I always thought about the Bible, talking about the end of the world and the fire, and that was always my mind. But it was more about what would happen to my family as a kid, or what would happen to my parents, what would happen to my sisters, what would happen to my grandparents.
Sure.
When that happened, really more than thinking about past, where I would end up or what I would be. I guess I never really locked in on that part of it.
And more specifically, when you think of eternity, does that not feel too large to you?
It doesn't to me.
It doesn't.
No. It just feels like that. I mean, I feel like that's God's plan, and if it wasn't something that didn't need to happen, he wouldn't put us in that situation. And I just as I got older and you thought about seeing your grandparents or seeing somebody you've lost, I mean, to me that forever with that is a good thing.
I feel like that's what Dusty was saying when he said, what would you rather?
Yeah.
And essentially I kind of say, well, I need it to end at some point. I mean, we're gonna get bored or we're gonna get tired. Like, I can't be a part of something that is not ever over.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't think you mean that.
Yeah. Well, and do you look at it and you just think of all the ones that went before you never
Yeah.
met, and all the ones coming behind you'll never meet. And,
Sure.
that to me simplifies it a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
So
Thank you for telling me.
you're welcome. So after we've discussed all that, I guess my question revisiting is, how would you fall in love with your life?
Yeah. We kind of got off track.
Yeah.
Huh?
We usually do.
Thank you, babe. Well, okay. So for me, falling in love with my life is honestly just trying to get the most out of every single day. We always say kind of getting the goodie out of every day.
Yeah.
And for me, that entails some type of connection, whether it's with you or with Cam or with the kids, some type of honest goodness, good, deep conversation. Not deep, it doesn't even have to be deep. It just has to be connecting. And so sometimes even Cam will call and she'll do her stuff and I'll do my stuff. But the way we're doing it together is so connective because I don't really have that with anyone. And so that's beautiful to me. Or you and I just honestly getting off our phones and having a conversation that has some worth in it and feeling seen by you.
Yeah.
That's really helpful to me. And then some type of activity every day, whether a workout or a run or just being able to feel all of the different parts of my body. It almost makes me feel a little bit more real.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that differently, but just enjoying the way that my body works and then just telling my body thank you for all of the things that it can do. It has all of its parts. None of its parts are sick. There's health here, and just having gratitude for that. And then something with the kids, whether it's taking Cash to eat, Lily to sushi, Liza hearing one of her new songs, like the things that help me feel connecting to the kids. But I think I was saying earlier, nature, any type of sunshine. When
Yeah.
the sun is not out, that's really hard for me to find this. But being outside in the outdoors is just so healing for me. And then journaling and kind of finding out what is in my mind while journaling or writing, or I'm trying to start a book right now, and that's been neat to start with one sentence that turns into 15, and that tells me a lot more about myself. And then you and I, our most fun is just going on adventures together.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch more, but just trying to stay in that stuff rather than focusing on the stuff I don't like about my life or the stuff that I don't like about my relationships. Just trying to stay out, because you could live there. You could live there so easy, and
Yeah.
I could live there so easy. And so just trying to see the positive and get away from the negative or the victim mentality of this life, because it's all our first time here, and we all have the same amount of try and passion, and or we all have the same go at it, you know.
Hell, for me, it's not. It's about winning, but it's not about winning at for myself or financially or business or any of that. I've just learned over time through my life that what gives me the most joy is giving something to somebody or doing something for somebody.
Yeah, that's your love language.
Yeah, and so for me, it's like tonight cooking hamburgers and Liza texting me and I get an 8.5 out of 10. Or
Got a high rating.
or if I've got a friend that was looking for something and I found it and I called him and said, "Hey, here's what you were looking for. Call this guy right here."
Yeah.
Or you finding something that you wanted me to get done, or something you were looking for, and I find it, and that's, to me, that's what does it for me on a daily basis, is just those little wins that really benefit somebody other than me, that That's just little stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I like that a bunch. Yeah, those little things, and those things wouldn't matter, I know, without the adversity and without the struggle. It makes them so much sweeter.
No.
Like that text from Liza wouldn't have been as sweet unless you guys had your history.
Yep.
And, Henley thanked me so loudly for the cheese tonight.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to someone, but to me, it nearly made me burst into tears because it's just the sweetest. These little moments that we're getting to share with our family has been really cool.
Yep, that's the win that took a long time to get. So
Yeah.
move along.
Yeah. And so just wanting to fall in love with our lives and spend a little less time trying to figure out the whole existence and actually existing.
Yep, not overthinking it. I'm an underthinker and you're an overthinker.
Yeah,
we got to find the happy medium.
I need some medicine that makes you an underthinker. Or do you think marijuana could? Is that our cat?
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some type of microdosing that can make me an underthinker. Sometimes I think I'm just going to take this day off, and that never happens.
Yeah.
I tried to do it today.
So some of this conversation started around, we were talking about reading books, and you got talking about the guy that had the book reading the page.
My gosh.
And so you might tell that. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I was, one of my favorite podcast. You have your comfort TV shows. I have a comfort podcast. It's so funny. It's Anna Kendrick on Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard and Monica Padman. And I've listened to it like 6 times. It's my favorite episode. It's so soothing to me. And she's talking about being in her movie and the director saying, I'm going to have you on this hammock and you'll be reading your book. And she was like, I can hold my book, but I won't be reading my book because people with minds like ours, we don't read. We can't. There's no possible way our minds are racing. We'll read the same paragraph 15 times and we'll try. And what's funny is that's me. I couldn't have related more to anything ever. And I have like 5 or 6 books that I really want to read, but I just kind of can't. And you will lay on the beach for hours and I'll read the same paragraph over and over and over. And so I've switched to Audible kind of back and forth, but I was listening to Choose Your Paradigm on Audible. And he said that he has I don't think he has the same problem as me or us, but ADHD or ADHDers. But he was saying he puts his book on a book stand and he will keep it on the same page for 2 or 3 months until he truly grasps the principle. And I thought that is so soothing for someone like me to hear because I kind of bully myself. Like, you should have been through this book in a few days. You should not be on this same book a year later. Yeah. And he's saying that he stays on the same paragraph for 3 months. And I was like, gosh, isn't that something? And, going back to finding your joy and learning to love your life and your passions is, I watch the Barbie movie and I hear the monologue by America Ferrera and I'm ready to take over the planet. It gives me so much drive and motivation when I can hear somebody that's, it's opposite of that small talk. It's that, let's just peel back every single layer and let me talk to the deepest part of you. Let me and that part of you have a conversation real quick. And you just feel like you can strip your clothes and run naked down the highway. And that's how I felt, when we went down to that meeting in Florida. I could see that spark in you, that you were just ready, because he was meeting with his peers and they were working on that. It's the word I'm looking for. Just the
self-education and self-belief. Improvement.
You're wanting to improve in all areas. And when you came back from there, you were ready to find a gym. You were ready to work on several different areas of our business, and you were motivated and you were recharged and you were ready. And I just thought, these things are important. I mean, why do you think these conferences sell out and make millions? And
It's kind of a reset.
it is, and it's really helpful. And I just thought, I want to make sure I keep plugging in to people that make me feel recharged. And I want to make sure that I am always trying to be recharging whatever I put online or whatever I put out in this podcast or in the book. I want it to feel recharging for others. Because you think there's nothing I can say that can make someone feel like they could run down the road. And that's just not true. God has put everything inside us to be able to turn and teach and be that resource for someone else. And maybe you want it to be thousands or millions, and maybe it's just one other person, but that one other person or a dozen other people, that's life-changing for you to be that for them.
Right.
I want to be that for them. I don't want to say, thank God it's Friday. Hey, I just don't.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's for people like me that aren't as deep of thinkers. There's simple things that, that would educate us or be a big motivator to us that, somebody you might offhand say that, might not mean anything to anybody like you, but to me it means a lot. And
you will feel that drive in a different way.
Yeah, so, you can't just discount anything because there's somebody out there that's middle of the road that it might be good for.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
But it was, I really didn't put a whole lot of thought into that beforehand about, that piece of it and the motivation that came out of it. I was looking at it strictly as educational.
I thought you were looking at it more as relationships.
Well, that too, relationship and educational and, somebody to talk to. But it was really motivational.
Tell them the main thing that y'all did. That's so interesting.
Well, we read a book about scaling up and changing your business and how to structure it. And the author came and talked to us about the book and kind of gave us his input on it. And we got to talk to him about 4 or 5 hours and then discuss different things with each other before and after that. It was a really interesting deal.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of fun.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for sure. Yeah. Didn't care much for where we went, but 10 out of 10 on the rest
we
of
are
it.
not South Florida people, are we?
At least not that town. I didn't see much myself. But
I just don't want to spend $600 on a tank top.
Yeah.
While the store owner ignores me.
A little different.
Because I'm wearing my whole outfit's from Target.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so it,
she didn't even know I was very nice.
She didn't?
No. She had no idea of my deep thoughts.
Well, and it was an investment for us to go and spend the time there, but it was well worth it for me, just even looking back just for the motivational part of it.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You weren't expecting that. I think that one sideswiped you.
Yeah, I think so too.
I like that though. That's good.
So, but it ties back into what we were saying, talking about reading a book. The same thing there. Whenever I would read something in that book, my mind would immediately start thinking about how to implement it or how to change, and I couldn't get through the book. I got the book read, and then I went back and listened to it on Audible, and then had to reread part of it just to get it because certain parts my mind would just skip ahead to what I needed to be doing instead of finishing reading the section. So it was kind of tough.
It's a source of guilt for me because I'm like, I should have had those read. I should not be reading 6 different books at the same time. And it's like, just fall in love with your life, write your own rules. There's no, especially on time and length of book reading, is definitely not scripture based. Like, there's nothing God says about how long it should take you to read your book. Write your own rule and fall in love with that part of it, Well, give yourself a break.
I think it doesn't even necessarily, not sitting here like we're promoting reading, but just anything to improve yourself, to give you really not even to improve yourself, just to get you headed down a different path for me is a big part of it. So whether it's, listening to a podcast or a book or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Did you have a Bob Goff quote tonight?
Well, I was mentioning one to you because something else that was kind of swirling in my brain was the triggers that we kind of provide each other offhandedly within our dust ups. And Bob Goff, I'll butcher it, but the the gist of it is that your partner can be your greatest resource for the things that need to heal in you. If you could just stay with it and not get defensive or not get into that argument or that dust up, if you can just stay mature and listen to the things that your partner has to say, they have a front row seat.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I mean, that's something that's, it's taken me 6 or 7 years of us being to get together to really, I was thinking about that tonight.
Yeah.
Walking in here before we even discussed it, just how the different mentality and the handling of things and trying to think about them before reacting to a certain extent.
Yeah, because it really can get us because we are so close, and when it really matters to me what you think.
Well, and one thought process for some days that are good is one way, and the day that's not so good, you have a different thought process. But you still have to be open to taking the time to listen and trying to be open to really figure out what the issue is.
Right. Well, and I don't know which part of you I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
Who knows if I'm talking down into an empty cup or if I'm piggybacking off of something that went wrong that day.
Yeah.
If you were already having feelings of insecurity, or if I'm having feelings of insecurity as a mom or as a friend, and then you come in and pile that I'm also not, by what you're saying, I'm thinking you're saying I'm not a good wife now, then that's piling.
Yeah.
And so you always have to wonder where you're heading, but the thing that this stemmed from is the things that trigger us, those shivs that get really gnarly and really festery, and realizing that if you say something that really gets me, that really triggers me, and I know that you're not trying to hurt me, that that's something that is unhealed in me, how we think that we're supposed to really just stay in it and turn back to that person and beg them, unsay that. Unsay that. Say you didn't mean it. Say you said it wrong. That's not true.
Or even say it a different way.
Say it a different way. That can't be true. That can't be true. And we'll spend 2-3 days where I'm not okay until you come to me and say, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean it. And realistically, what is it? You don't hear things the way they are. You hear things the way you are.
No.
And so the way we internalize things and what I was just learning recently is the things that you say to me with a good heart that trigger me are none of your business. Those are things that I'm supposed to take then away from you and go to my therapist or go get in the Word or go put pen to paper and realize why would someone I love very much saying affect me the way that it is.
No.
And so learning to take it and go instead of sit and fester and create something even larger.
No. Well, and we've found that to be the case even in a dust up, where there maybe is malicious intent at that time, but we've also found it in just conversation.
Well, and
say something a different way that you take it the wrong way.
Well, and that's, I'm glad you said that because that's not what I'm talking about. If you say something angry to me that you do not mean, I do need you to say, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
But if you say something that you've noticed about me that you're kind of wishing that I could receive from you and I can't receive it, that's none of your business.
Yeah.
Like, that's our relationship. I need to hear those things from you, and I need to take the things straight to my therapist.
Yeah.
I don't need to come back to you in anger and say that you were joking, say that you didn't mean that, you're lying. That's not
argue
me.
the point.
Yeah, argue the point.
Yeah.
So those things that we're finding about each other and trying to discuss with each other, if we can't get to that point, I don't feel like we can get further to where we're trying to go.
Right.
I feel like that's our next hurdle. What they say, it's like shooting holes in each other's side of the boat.
Yeah.
The notes and the things that we're seeing about each other, if we could just find a way to receive them, could you imagine how much faster we could get the boat to go?
Yeah.
And this
Save a lot of 2 or 3 days for sure.
And this didn't even happen with Jay and I. It happened with one of my siblings, and I knew that my sibling was speaking pure of heart, but what they were saying was hurting me so deeply, and what they were saying was then none of their business. What they were saying was a note to me, like, "Hey, you have some unhealed things in you.
Yeah.
You need to take those sentences and head to your therapist."
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, then if that's applicable with my sibling, that's applicable with my kids, with Cam, with Jay.
Yeah.
Rounds for everyone.
Well, I think all through your life, there's things that people have said. Either you felt like they thought about you, or they thought you were a certain way, and you kind of latch onto that. And if somebody insinuates it, it immediately offends you. And as you get older, it becomes less and less. But I can remember things that growing up, a certain way, and that's another deeper side of it. So
right. Yep. There are those things that I know I have moments in time that I've frozen still and memorialized in a part of my brain that hurt me,
But you're saying that by not arguing back, that you're basically saying that's none of your business. That's for me personally to deal with. Yeah.
That's not for me to. That's not a conversation that you and I need to have. That's a conversation that I need to go straight to my therapist and say, they said this and it got deep. It cut really deep, and I need to know why that cut that deep.
Yeah.
Because you love me, my siblings love me, Cam loves me, and so there's never a chance that you would ever say anything knowing how deep that one was going to go. So there has to be some unresolved things. And so you, instead of turning it into a dust up, using it as a resource, a Cliff Notes.
Yeah. To prevent further dust ups.
Yeah. And I got that from Dax a long time ago. One of his very first episodes, he said, when him and Kristen would get in an argument and something would land real hard, he'd say, "I need just a minute." And he'd go sit on the end of his bed for a few minutes and just say, why was that sentence so much heavier than the other ones? Where is it that she landed that remark in me that's feeling this way?
Yeah. Well, just having the wherewithal to even realize it, to go stop. I mean, that's a pretty hard deal.
Yeah.
At any age or any time in your life, good, bad, or indifferent.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, that unresolved stuff, that's pretty tricky, huh?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Kind of shows up at odd times, too.
It's not very fair when we use it on purpose.
Sometimes when you get in the dust up, it does happen, though.
Yes, right?
So, babe, is there anything else tonight?
I don't think so. I knew we didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this one today. We just finished basketball last night. I don't know what we're going to do with all of our extra time.
I'm telling you.
And then we
go watch some playoff basketball. That's what we're going to do.
And then we are heading to the Stockyards in Fort Worth this weekend to celebrate our 7th anniversary.
Well, and this is a twofold travel deal.
Yes.
This is to celebrate our anniversary, but also this is a touchy weekend for you. Well, it is kind of touchy because
such a good word for it. I hadn't thought about the word touchy.
Yeah, so
sensitive.
And knowing you, I've kind of been a little bit on the lookout, knowing that this was coming up this weekend. So there was a conference you've mentioned on here before, women's conference, that you were there from the get-go and did 2 years?
3.
3 years.
Right?
Yeah.
3. This would have been the 4th.
Yeah, and not there this year.
Not there this year.
So
I'm sending my right arm and my left arm.
Yeah.
Cam is going to speak, and we've gone over and over and over her speech. She's put her whole heart into her speech, and she's going to just, it's going to be amazing. And then my left arm, Sherry, is coming down from Canada, and she's going to be the MC.
Yeah.
What's really touchy is they surprised me at the very end of the conference last year with the announcing of Sherry being the MC. And so this gives a whole new meaning to FOMO. And so we're going to go down to the stockyards, and that's really my happy place with my favorite person on the planet. And so I really am thankful that this weekend turned out to where, instead of sitting here at the house and knowing all of that was going to be going on, because ultimately it's going to be one of the most lovely weekends in Kansas that you've ever known. So if you're listening and you're heading, I'm just so excited for you. But it is, it's pretty touchy for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was an enjoyable thing, and for you, it was a very uplifting thing for you, and a lot of great people involved, and it's something hard to give up.
It was fun for you. It was one of your favorite things to do because you love Kansas, and then Lily went with us each year. And so when I had to tell her that we weren't going to be going, I really thought I was going to get it from her and have to deal with her being disappointed and sad, and she just wasn't. She just was so. I think that was just such a blessing from the Lord, as Lily was good immediately, and that helped me so much because I think I was putting a lot of weight into her being disappointed in her mama.
You'd let her down.
I'd let her down.
Yeah.
So, but just life is messy, and I don't really have much more I can say because I love everyone involved so much. But it was, I've talked to so many people this week that are going and reaching out, that are going and just having a lot of anxiety. And I think there has been maybe an attack on things that are good and that get good to people. And I even think that, to the point where I think Satan took me out of the equation because he was trying to get Cam out. I think he thought if he took me out, she would follow. And I think the things that she's going to say this weekend are going to be so helpful and life-changing and healing. And so we've kind of laughed at that, like, nice try, lame-o. It's just really, really neat to see that. And not in hindsight, because it's not till this weekend, but just looking back at how it all unfolded.
Right.
I'm really, really, really thankful for my time that I got to have there. And I'm guessing that I stayed too long, and maybe the Lord had to intervene where I just kind of I like to stay in a space too long. And he knew that I wouldn't on purpose ever say no thank you to something so lovely. And so I think he had to send kind of a curveball to create it all from happening. And so the whole, if what is it? If less of me means more of you, take everything. That's the whole. He took everything. I'm out. He completely took me out of the equation. And so all of my favorite people are gathering in one little spot this weekend, and I'm not going to be there. So that's going to be pretty tough.
We're going to have fun, though.
Yeah, we are. I'm so excited and ready to get my outfits. And we only have, when we get back on Monday, Sherry and her husband will be very close to being here. They're coming here after the conference. And so, of course, I want this place to be sparkly and homey for them. And so I need to spend all day tomorrow getting their place ready. And they'll stay out in the bunk room and get all that stuff ready and, make this pick up the 18 balls that are in the yard and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that is all going to happen tomorrow. And then we'll head down to Fort Worth Friday and get back on Monday. And Sherry and Beard will be here.
Yeah.
Maybe we can record while they're here.
Maybe so.
That'd be nice. I told Cam she's coming back on the show, so she'll be back on the next episode, maybe, or the next.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah. Thank you for making this happen tonight. I know it wasn't. I know you're exhausted.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, what else you got, babe?
That's it. I like your 1 week old traps. It's not very fair if you'd already have those. It really isn't, honey, and I really don't appreciate it.
Well, I'm trying hard.
You're doing amazing. It's just not fair for you to already have those.
Oh, well. Need them.
Yeah.
Well, as the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you.
I love you too.